Alright guys, welcome to this first video in the FL Studio 20 course. So in this video I just want to let you know that FL Studio has been doing some different changes between the versions. So version 11 or 12 for instance, they differ between them. So even though you're very familiar with, let's say you've been creating music with FL Studio version 11, and now you're taking this course for version 20, I will still think that this course is good for you. So even though you've been using FL Studio a long time, but not this version 20, I still think you should take this course. I'm gonna go through all the new stuff as well as a brief introduction to FL Studio. So if you've never been using FL Studio, or let's say that this is the first time you're producing music at all, I think this course will fit you as well. This course is suited for all the people that has never been creating music with FL Studio, but as I said, I still think that you should take this course if you have been using the previous versions of FL Studio prior to version 20. And as you can see, my version of FL Studio may look a bit different than yours. You can see here at close, minimize, and maximize buttons here, and this is because I use FL Studio on Mac, but they are exactly the same on Windows operating systems as well as Mac operating systems. So if you're using Windows 10 or Windows 7 or Mac OS, for instance, it will be exactly the same, and it looks the same as well. So let's see you in the next lecture, where we're going to cover the basics of FL Studio. Let's see you there. Alright guys, let's take a look at the interface of FL Studio. So as you can see, first we have the close, minimize, and maximize buttons on the left hand side here, instead of the usual case in Windows is that these three buttons here are on the right side. But yeah, I'm using Mac for FL Studio for this course, but it's the same thing for Windows or for Mac. So all of these buttons will be on the left hand side. And if you're using macOS, your buttons for close, minimize, and maximize are always on the left hand side anyway. So this change is only going to affect Windows users. Different buttons on this side that you will open and close all of the time when you're working in FL Studio. So let's take a look at them. I will close this playlist window right now, so just close it like that. This is the mixer, I'm going to close it as well. So here you can see, first button is the playlist. So you open and close it by just clicking the playlist button here. Next one we have is the piano roll. Next one we have is the channel rack, which is this one. Then we have the mixer. And then we have the browser and plugin picker. Alright guys, welcome to this lecture when we're going to take a look at the interface of FL Studio. So this is how it usually looks when you load up FL Studio for the first time. And as you can see, there are a lot of different buttons here. There are a lot of things going on here already when you start FL Studio for the first time. So as you can see here, I have the close, minimize, and maximize buttons. And these are the only buttons that differs between the Windows version and the Mac version. Other than that, we have the menus, file, edit, add, patterns, view, options, tools, and help. So we will cover these menus in a later lecture. For instance, you have all of the regular open and save, import, export. The edit is just cut, copy. Then you have add, and this is all of the plugins that you can add into your projects. And yeah, so you have different plugins here, but also effects. And we will cover all of these plugins in a separate lecture later on. Patterns Also, we will also do a separate lecture about that. Then we have the view options. So there are a lot of different options in FL Studio, but we will cover that as well. Then we have the tools. There are different tools in FL Studio, and we have the help section as well. And in this course, we will not cover FL Studio in depth because we want to learn FL Studio in a day, basically. So I will cover all of the basics in FL Studio and everything that you need to know to produce music. So you have a lot of different options in FL Studio, since FL Studio is a massive program to create music and audio editing, MIDI editing, and other music production related tasks that you can do in FL Studio. But in this course, we will cover everything you need to know to produce music. All of the different artists and producers out there that uses FL Studio, they know this that I'm going to teach you in this course. And we're also going to have a separate course, which is going to be a lot longer than this one. And we will cover everything in depth. But I think it's very important to learn your digital audio workstation very fast, so you can get starting to use your digital audio workstation and produce music as quick as you can. Yeah, so instead of just watching a course that is, let's say, 20 hours long or something like that, where we like learn that you're not really going to use at all in the future. Instead of that, we're focusing on what you need to know and also how to start to create music, because this course is all about that. Okay, so next thing that we have here, typing keyboard to piano keyboard. So if you have this enabled, then you can play your keyboard, like your physical keyboard on your computer, with the MIDI keyboard. So as soon as I play something, or as soon as I type something on my keyboard here, then we will have some sound outputs here. I'm just pressing my keyboard, physical keyboard on my laptop here. So if I disable this, I can't really play with the MIDI in FL Studio at all. Yeah, but when I have this enabled, I just play it like that. Next thing that we have here, scrolls to reach time markers. We go back here to the left. This section here is our transport section. So here we can basically go to, let's see here, song position. So if you want to get forward or backward in your track, because we don't have anything here in the track right now, so you can't really scroll through the track right now, but this is the way to go when you have a lot of different clips inside of the arrangement here. Then you can just scroll around it with this here. Then we have next one here, pattern or song or pattern mode. So if this is enabled, then you will play the whole song. If you have this enabled, that will only play the selected pattern. We'll cover this as well. You will see that in the production section. So you will see how this is going to work live later on. Then you have the play, and then you have the stop here, record, and this is the tempo. So you can just select the tempo by dragging like this. You can also do it more finely like that as well if you go to this section with the 3 zeros here. Now let's take a look at all of these buttons here. So the first one is the view playlist. So this is the playlist which is going to have an arrangement in. Then, yeah, and you can also enable or disable it by just clicking and again. Then you have next one, piano roll. So you enable and disable the piano roll here. Then you have the channel rack. Just enable and disable it. Mixer, like that. Browser and plugin picker. So you have all of your sounds and plugins here. Then we have something called Open Project Plugin Picker. Then we have Tempo Tapper. And then you have touch controller. So the two last buttons here, I'm just going to cover this really quickly because I won't cover this later on in this course. But a tempo tapper is basically when you want to find a tempo, and you just tap this here, and this will detect the tempo of your tapping basically. And I'm used to produce with a tempo around 128 BPM, so it may be why this tempo is here. Then we have next one, touch control and touch controller here. Then we have the next one here, touch controller. This is like a MIDI keyboard, but with these touchpads here instead. You can also see the tonality of all of these touchpads here as well. And here is launch content library. So if I click on it here, that will load up a browser with Image Line's website, where we can find their own content library that we can download. Then you have online content and events, so you can find different news about FL Studio here. Then we have next section, so patterns. You can load up different patterns that you're going to create. So the patterns are basically just like clips that you can just browse out like that. And here we have the pattern selector. So you can select the different patterns that you're working with. And with patterns, if I click something on the arrangement here, let's say that I want some MIDI data from 5 here, let's say. I just click it like that. I can resize it and I can delete it by just right click my mouse. So I left click to create it and right click to delete it. And that is basically how you do everything in FL Studio. So if you're creating the MIDI data in piano roll, for instance, you click the left to create a MIDI, let's say a MIDI section or a MIDI data, and then you right click to just get rid of it. So let's say that this is just the first pattern. So as you can see, if I click here and there, or let's say that I click as much as I want, all of this is going to be linked to pattern 1. So pattern 1, let's get rid of all of these here. Pattern 1 is just because we have selected pattern 1 in the pattern selector. So what patterns is that they contain some MIDI data, or sometimes even audio as well. So let's say that we have a pattern 1 here, and we have that selected here. I can go to the piano roll. Now I can write out something. Let's say I have it like that. So now we have the pattern 1 here. So as soon as I click somewhere, I get the same pattern because we have the pattern 1 selected. But let's say that we want to create some other kind of, let's say, kick rhythm here, because I have it created like the pattern 1 here. So if I just go to pattern 2, so I go up or press just plus, I can also create the name there, or I can go here and I can find next empty, for instance. So like that. So now that is the pattern 3. So now I can go to the piano roll. I can write out something else. Let's say I want that kind of pattern for the pattern 3. So now if I click here, you will have the pattern 3 with the same data that we created in the pattern 3 that we're going to discuss later on when we're creating a track. Maybe it doesn't make sense for you right now, and that is totally fine. Maybe you're just out there thinking, what is this guy talking about? And I will tell you everything you need to know about patterns when we're creating music, because that is going to be the easiest way to explain how these patterns work. It's good to know for you that you have this pattern system introduced. You have these buttons here, as you can see: undo, open new audio editor, like that. One-click audio recording, you can get more help. You can save as new version, so save as. Then you have render as audio file. And then you have view project info. I see all of these buttons here as shortcuts. And I don't think you will use them that often. I don't do that. So yeah, but it's good to know that they are there, and if you want to, let's say, render as an audio file, and then you have that shortcut here. So that is actually really nice to have. Then we have the song position. So you can see the song position, or you can see minutes, seconds, like that. And then you have bars like this. Then we have the monitor, so you can see all of the audio that is outputted. You can also click on it to get different wave spectrum. And you have the peak meter here as well. Then we have the CPU load, so you can see how much your computer is actually working when you're creating or working with your project. Then you have the memory usage, so this will show all of the RAM or RAM memory that FL Studio is using right now. CPU load history, so you can actually see where or when the spikes of the CPU or the processor in your computer is happening. Then you have the amount of voices being processed there as well, and CPU panel. And then we have some more buttons here. So typing keyboard to piano keyboard that I explained before. They have scrolls to reach time markers, step editing mode, enable notes. You have multi-link to controllers, so you can actually control different stuff that is happening to a MIDI controller. Then we have the metronome, wait for input to start playing, countdown before recording, blend recording, and loop recording. So all of these functions here are pretty self-explanatory, but I will still use some of them in this course, and I will use the functions that I think are really the most necessary to feel comfortable using when you're creating music. That is a brief overview of the interface in FL Studio. Let's see you in the next lecture.